Hey there, I'm Chef Joe, culinary instructor here at Authenticity, and today we are going to be making our Parmesan Crusted Beef Tenderloin. Beef tenderloins can be a little intimidating, but they're honestly super easy. Make no mistake, this is going to be a holiday hit that your family is going to enjoy. So right here I have a tenderloin that has been trussed and cut into two pieces. I had the butcher go ahead and do that for me. It saves me a little bit of time and a little bit of grief. Just go to the market, to the butcher, ask him to do this, get some of the rest of your grocery shopping done, come back and it's done for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drizzle a little bit of olive oil on here. Just rub the oil all the way around, making sure to get the bottom and the sides. And the reason why we truss is so that we can kind of keep it all in the same shape so it cooks evenly. And now I'm going to take some kosher salt. I'm going to liberally apply this on all sides. My hands here real quick. And now we're going to go with our coarsely ground black pepper. If you have a coffee grinder, or if you want to buy one just to freshly grind your spices, I think that's a great idea. It saves you a lot of time instead of just sitting there with the pepper mill going all over. This definitely makes a big difference rather than the already cracked black pepper. Really lets the oils come out when you do it fresh. So nice liberal application of that on the sides here. All the way around. And we're good to go. I have our oven preheated to 425 degrees. Ultimately, we're going to take that out, put on our Parmesan crust, and re-pop it in there to finish cooking. But this is going into our 425 oven for 20 minutes. Alright, so our beef tenderloin has been cooking in the oven for about 20-25 minutes at 425. So we're going to take this out. Looking good. Awesome. So we're going to let this cool for a couple minutes while we revisit our Parmesan crust. So again, I have half a cup of Parmesan cheese. I have 2 cups of panko breadcrumbs, a tablespoon of roughly chopped Italian flat leaf parsley, about a tablespoon of thyme, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. Now before I pack on the crust onto our tenderloin, I am going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And what this will do, it'll help moisten the breadcrumbs, but also help brown them when they're in the oven. Just turn around so that there's a nice even coating of the olive oil over the breadcrumbs. And before it's not doing it for you, just get in there, get your hands dirty. Squeeze it a little bit too, kind of helps get it all packed in there. Awesome. So we're just going to be putting this on top and around the sides. If you get a little bit on the roasting pan, that's okay. It might burn a little bit, but we're not eating it, so don't worry, don't fret too much about it. Pack that down a little bit. And for good measure, just another little drizzle of olive oil on top. Alright, now I'm going to pop this back into the oven for about 25 minutes. Before I do, I am going to turn the temperature down to about 400. We don't need it at that high heat. We did it so we could get a nice crust on that part, on that tenderloin before. So now we're gonna pop this in for another 20 minutes. We'll be ready to eat. All right, so our beef tenderloin has been in the oven now for another 20 minutes at 400 degrees with that Parmesan crust. Let's see how it looks. Doesn't look too bad to me. So you see some of this burnt on the outside, that's okay, we can discard it before we move on to our next step. Before we get to that, I'm going to carefully take some tongs. I'm going to transfer this to my cutting board. Alright, and I'm going to let this rest for another like 15 to 20 minutes, simply so that all the juices that are in there are going to redistribute. If we cut into it right now, all those awesome juices are going to come pouring out all over our cutting board, and we don't want that. So just for good measure, before we move on to our next step, I'm going to take the excess breadcrumbs and I'm just going to, whoops, make a mess. Now I'm just going to toss them. We don't really need. All right, so we have our meat resting. We've got our pan here. We're going to put it onto our stove top. So you'll turn these on here. A little kitchen magic for you. I'm just going to put this on low. Before we put the pan on, I am going to pour 2 cups of red wine into a measuring cup. What we're going to do is we're going to deglaze our pan. And what deglazing means is basically we're trying to get all that beautiful, what we call fond, all those little brown bits off the bottom of the pan. There's a lot of flavor there. So, and if you want to take a swig when no one's looking, it's okay. It's all right. How else are we gonna get through the holidays? So we're gonna put that there. Be careful. This is gonna splash just a touch when it gets on there. All right. So what we're gonna do is we're just going to gently scrape off the bits off the bottom of the pan here. You see there's a little bit of fire here? That's okay. If you're not comfortable with this, don't worry. Instead, what you can do is you can take 2 cups of that red wine and put it directly into a saucepan and let it reduce for about 10 minutes or at least by half the volume so that you don't have to have, you know, a little fiery circus in your kitchen like this. All right, so after we've deglazed our pan, we strained out that wine and now we have put it into a nice heavy bottomed saucepan. I'm gonna let this go at about a medium high heat so we can reduce a little bit more before I add in our demi-glace. Now all demi-glace is veal stock that's been reduced into a really concentrated sauce basically. And what this does, it really adds a nice hearty flavor to our wine sauce that we're making here. You can find this in specialty food stores. You can also find this online. If you don't want to buy this online or go to a specialty food store, that's fine. I would just take some boxed beef stock and reduce it so it gets to this nice, really thick consistency. So why don't we come over here and take a look at our wine. So right now we're at maybe about a cup and a half. So I want this reduced for another reduce another half cup. And then ultimately we'll add in our demi-glace and our butter and we'll be ready to eat. So now that my wine has reduced about by half down to about 1 cup, I'm going to take about, I don't know, maybe about a 1/4 cup of our demi-glace. I'm going to put that right in. And with a whisk, I'm just going to make sure it's all incorporated in there. Beautiful. Now I'm going to turn off my heat and I'm going to incorporate 4 tablespoons of cold butter, 1 tablespoon at a time. And what that's going to do is ultimately thicken this sauce and make it very luxurious. This is a classic French technique. Kind of what gives that nice silky texture to those sauces. So before that first tablespoon of butter is completely melted, we'll go in and put in another one here. Continue whisking. I'm just going to finish up here with these 2 tablespoons of butter. I'm going to carve the tenderloin and we'll be ready to eat. Alright, so we have let our tenderloin rest for about 15-20 minutes. Sliced it nice and thick, and after we incorporated that butter into our wine and demi-glace sauce, we plated it here for people to serve themselves. I think this is a great dish. As you can see, it wasn't terribly difficult, so you can spend more time with your guests and less time in the kitchen. Thanks for joining us today, and we hope you have a happy holiday.